Ooh, James,
Woo!
welcome back. I've missed you.
How did you get on last week? Did the guest get a word in edgeways?
The guest did get a word in edgeways. I did miss you, though. I did miss you.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I was learning. I had to go away on a little trip, and but used it very well because I also got a chance to see some wonderful actors. So I was learning a little bit of stagecraft at the same time last week.
Oh, that sounds great. That sounds really good. Are you ready for Easter, by the way?
I have no clue at any holidays. Christmas is the only one I can actually remember. All these other things, because I think we don't have kids. Like all my friends who got kids, they all remember all these holidays. I have no idea. So my team actually had to remind me this week, my team in the Philippines, that it was Easter coming up and all the stuff was going on. What about you? Have you got your chocolate eggs and all the things that you do for
Well,
Easter?
but, I try not to eat too much chocolate. I've got a wedding coming up, so I don't want to sort of, have to let outfits out and things. No, but of course, Easter's important because I'm, Italian Catholic, so
Of
it's
course.
so it's more important than Christmas, really. But anyway,
But did you give up anything for Lent? That's the important thing. Did you stop it doing anything
I'm
for
not very
Lent?
good at giving things up. I haven't got the willpower of our guest. Our guest has great willpower. How's that for a segue?
Absolutely. Absolutely beautiful. So our guest this week is a leadership speaker, best-selling author, award-winning businesswoman, and advisor to US presidents and their task forces, as well as Fortune 500 executives, on how to be effective at engaging their people and stakeholders. She educates leaders and businesswomen on influencing, impacting, and inspiring others to increase profits, productivity, and positivity. Don't know that. She coaches women CEOs, admirals and generals, college presidents, and entrepreneurs on influence, impact, and presentation skills. Her expertise is on women leaders and women in business. She is the founder of Power Women Worldwide. Her newest book is called Called to Lead: Success Strategies for Women. Avon and Real Leaders magazine called Pegine one of the top leadership motivational speakers in the world. And today, she's going to share advice about working with big audiences on big stages, how to keep the energy up, how to keep everyone engaged, and how to use the stage. Everything you need to know about what it takes to make it work on the big stage. Please welcome Pegine Echevarria.
Yay!
Yeah,
I'm so
good to
happy to
see
be
you.
here.
Good
Oh
to
It's
my
see
lovely.
you.
gosh.
Lovely to see you. Lovely to see you, Pegine. So listen, before we start, let's just make sure that, people realize you've actually done the big stages. What was the biggest audience for you so
Well,
far?
that's a super great question. The biggest audience was in a stadium that I did at like one of these motivational rallies, and we had 65,000 individuals in the audience. So
It's pretty big.
that was the biggest stage. It was also when I began to really understand some of the tactics and tools that apply on a big stage that don't apply on smaller stages. And when I say smaller stages, they're not the same that if it's, I'm going to define a big audience as anything that's 1,000 people and more.
Yeah.
Because the mindset, the thoughts are completely different. It was so hard. You want to know the hardest thing about doing that stadium?
Of course I do.
Okay, it was having your headset on and you would say, hello, 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 hello. How are you? 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 Because you think what I'm saying you can hear, but the people up there, it takes about 2 seconds to get them there.
I
So,
hadn't even thought about that. I hadn't even
yeah.
considered. You've got to change your pacing.
Oh, you have to change your pacing. You have to do AV talk with, you really have to have some great conversations with the AV people. You have to be really aware of your presence. And I know that we're going to talk in a few minutes, but one of the things that you all have to remember, you all have had training for 2 years to do big audiences, because on the big stage, and James, you probably know that, well, both of you know this, is a lot of times you have multiple cameras watching you. So the experience that people are having are not you, because they almost can't see you. You're so tiny. What they're watching is the TV. And now we all have such extreme experience by talking to that camera. And that's critically important.
James, I'm sure you've got lots of questions.
No, I mean, I just saying that, I'm just reminded, there's an American speaker, Ron Kaufman. I remember him teaching me early on, when working on those kind of larger stages, you have, as you said, you might have 5, 6 different cameras. And he said, have a conversation with AV, find out who has that close-up shot, what camera that is. So where you're looking for that, when you're really wanting to land a very strong line and you want to have that eye contact straight down the barrel of the camera, who's doing the wide shots, the thing on stage. But something you said there, it kind of reminded me of a conversation I had years ago with a drummer called Billy Cobham, who's the drummer with Miles Davis.
Mm-hmm.
And he said to me something. He said he first started, and he was like a really successful drummer. And then he went and worked for Peter Gabriel, the musician from Police. And they did the first night show, and Billy thought he did a really good job. And he came off saying, I'm kind of happy about it. But then Peter took him aside and said, there's something you're going to have to learn, because he was moving from doing like small club gigs, like 1,000, 2,000 people, to now doing stadiums. And he said, all those lovely little minute things, all that real grace notes, all that lovely stuff that you're doing there, that's only transmitting to the first 10 rows. You've got to learn to transmit and connect with that person that's way over there. And so he said his playing changed. He became much more physical in terms of dramatic, using his body more, using the stage more, the power. I mean, you talk about power a lot in the work you do. He felt like his physical power had to change. He's quite a powerful player, but had to change slightly to work. So what other little things do you notice going from in terms of like presence, positioning, power, those kind of presentation skills, do you notice when you have to go to those larger stages from the smaller ones?
Well, I love that you and I could talk about from a music perspective. And so I always think about it before I ever get there. And I have always created, because my intention has always been to do large, is that I do perceive it as a rock show. And so I break everything into 5-minute segments as though it's the playlist of a rock show. And what's critically important about that is you have to know that in a large audience, you have this kind of ripple that's going out, right? So you have to know that when a singer starts and he's singing a ballad, the reason that the lights go on and he strums slowly and everybody goes into that mode, and
we get the lighters going at this point in the
audience. It's preparing the audience. The audience knows something's going to happen, and they do it. The second thing is that he'll have his second song, which might be like, hey, 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 and so you'll see them start doing this and getting up and educating the audience. I am requesting of you in that moment to lift your energy up. And so my playlist is an emotional playlist of not only what am I saying, what do I want the audience to think, do, and feel when I'm creating the playlist, and then how am I going to create that experience?
So, but even before you step onto the stage, how creating that context, that framing. I know, like with musicians, for example, they'll often they'll think a lot about the playlist of the music being played before they even get on stage.
Absolutely. This is
talk about to us before that preparation. Take us through your life in that 30 minutes before you step onto the stage.
So I'm going to give you. So I always fly in the day before. I spend 3 hours before I ever go on stage to prep myself. And here's a couple of things I do. First is I stretch. Now, people say, well, you're just going on stage. I see more people so stiff on stage because they didn't stretch. This is a championship. You are going into for the fight. You better stretch. So I need to make sure that my arms can go out really wide, and I'm going to stretch. I need to know, and especially for women that are going on stage, they need to get those hips like anchored. So, oh man, just like, let's look at J-Lo. Think about J-Lo or Lizzo would do. You got to get that going on before you ever get on stage. You have to absolutely positively. Here's one of the things that people forget about all the time. I have to do this. I've got to warm up my facial muscles because it is critical on stage. And with that, I have to do my tongue because my facial expressions and everything have to be bigger than if we were in an intimate conversation, right? It's got to be bigger. It's got to show bigger. So I will stretch that out. As a woman, I will make sure, and men, oh, please just hire a makeup artist, because you think we see you, we don't. Every man should be carrying cherry chapstick with them. I can't see your
So they
lips.
got me into the cherry chapstick. Actually, I actually had my wife said, "Why are you buying cherry chapstick?" And it was you.
You have to have cherry chapstick because your lips, the lights make you very pale. You have to, your mouth is your money. You've got to see it. So women should have more exaggerated makeup, more, because you think, oh, I would never go out on the stage like that. Those stage lights make you really, really get washed out. You need great theatrical makeup to be able to not sweat through it. And if you're a man and you're bald, you better have power on that, because the audience is going to see the light shining. It's like you're walking around like a light bulb. You think people are seeing, all we're seeing is your light on your head. Get that powder. So I do that beforehand. I make sure that I also, I go to my AV. So this is the secret sauce. Okay. So I'm giving you some of the secrets. When I go to the AV tech, I always make little packets of candy for every tech person. I put them in little bags, and I go around and I say, thank you so much. Thank you so much for doing this, because your work helps me. And I make sure they know certain things. I want to meet the videographers, the guys holding the cameras. I call them, they're usually guys, and I just say, I'm Madonna, you are my boy toys. You together, you are my supremes. So I'm going to look at the camera, and I do this all the time. I'll say, I'm looking at this camera, make sure, and we've had a pre-check so that the camera will switch over here so that I can do this kind of talk. If you've watched some of the Avon things, you will see that a lot of times I'll go, and for you watching, because we had 11,000 people watching virtually. So I need to address it to them. I need to speak to them that way. So I do talk to the AV people. If you have slides, I need to tell the AV slides, only put the slides up for 2 minutes. I am the star, not my slides. So I even put black slides in between my slides to remind the AV people, black slide, you're talking to me. Focus on me. Don't focus on the slide. That's really important beforehand. The other piece, I don't know, James, I don't know if you do it, is I always use my own mic. And if you don't have your own mic, I suggest it.
I used to do that a lot, but then I found working in so many different regions, parts of the world, there's different frequencies that you have to do, and it just became so difficult. But what I do, and especially after post-COVID, is everything gets wiped down really clean before
you have to
in my head, and also I don't allow them to put it in my head, because I'm just going to do that myself, and I know how the way I want positioned, and then when it comes off of my head, I clean it down for them as well before I can.
I do the same thing, except what I bought was international.
What mic are you using, Pegine? What is your mic?
I use a Shure.
Of course.
Here's one of the thing is, you know how this is, so there's two women keynote speaking things that I want to let you know, and for them. So if you see your mic looks like that at the end. You always want a windsock on top of it. Windsocks can cost $35 a piece, right? To get a flesh tone. Well, I'm a woman. I go, see, you guys don't know this. Women know we could go to a drugstore and we could buy these eye makeup things.
Yes. Oh, you use those? Very good.
With these tips. These cost me $4 for all this package. And I try to buy colors, because then my audience is amazed that I have colored tips that match the screen. I pull it off and I put this on my windscreen. I just now saved myself a lot of money. And by the way, I buy these and I give them to the tech people. They are thrilled because they never
always go missing. Things are always AV.
The best gigs to be a tech person at are Pegine's gigs. You get suites, you get little mic covers. It's just wonderful.
I give that all to them. I also make sure. So that's a before thing. And you said something really important. for women, we wear earrings. And the reason that I want to do my mic, I like to bring my mic, is my mic is already customized to my ear, right? It goes corkscrew, and I hired an AV guy to mold it to my ear. So it goes inside my ear the way it is. I know it's in the place it goes click in my eardrum over here, and I can go for it. But I also have to be very conscious about my earrings, because that can affect, and my necklaces. So those are things that I really watch beforehand. I do bring a stylist. I hire a stylist for now every one of my gigs, because I'm a show. I'm not just a speaker. I'm an experience. And if you don't know that about yourself, you think it's your words. It's the whole package. It's an experience. They're buying my power. They're buying my image. They're buying all of that. So that's why I started hiring a stylist, so that every program that I do, I'm wearing a customized look for that program.
Let me ask you a question on that, Pegine, actually, because so in the past, I've worked with some big celebrity names, and of course, they actually put the stylist costs and the outfit costs onto the client. Are you able to do that too?
Of course, that's why I raise my fee. They don't know that I'm doing it, but hell no, I'm not paying for that. I'm not paying. So I'm not paying for two things. This is something really important. I'm not paying. So if I'm doing virtual, I'm not paying for the producer that suddenly I have to hire to do your keynote. Like, you hire your producer for your event, but I'm going to hire my producer for my speech, because so I hire Amy, and I incorporate in my fee. We do, if it's a pre-recording, I put that cost to my client. I'm not paying for that. Hell, you're saving money as it is. You're not, it's not 20 people. So I always incorporate that. I do incorporate the fee of my stylist now. And because my stylist, and I don't buy the clothing. Here's what the gift is. People want me to wear the clothing on stage. And they'll say, where did you get it? Oh, I got it from Dillard's and stuff. So these stores that my stylist knows is really happy. My glasses are all sponsored glasses. So,
wow. It's a whole business, isn't it? Being on the big stages. It's brilliant. Love it.
Well, and you're investing in these pictures. So all my headshots that I just had done with all that are now being seen in this high-end optometrist's office. My picture is all over the place as stars.
So what you're talking about there, Pegine, I think is interesting, because you were kind of early on a lot of this stuff. Now we have this obviously influencer culture, and influencers totally get this. And I think I saw someone the other day, I think a speaker influencer, who actually has a sponsor for her dog food. Like this is a thing, because it's part of her brand of who she is and everything. So you were quite early on this, because I still think I have certain things sponsored, certain technical stuff sponsored, but I don't have the clothes sponsored, because I kind of get very kind of customized things, and it's kind of my vibe, and if anyone wants to look like me, then they're insane. They shouldn't want to look like me. But I think it's really interesting that you're kind of going out and finding those brands that have a resonance with you. And
absolutely. They find me more than I find them. And certainly the stylist is really helpful to have educated me. This is why brands want to be with celebrity stylists. They want you to be walking down the aisle. They want to see it on stage. They want to capture a picture. So one of my pictures, a boutique that she works with, got the picture blown up with the outfit that they had lent me, because we don't buy it, right? With the outfit, and the outfit sold out because they saw me wearing their outfit. Like, how cool is that? For James, for you, for instance, I would actually go to your tailor, who would love, any business wants to have business, right? And I would say, would you like to sponsor my outfit? I'll happily post the tailor experience. I'll happily take the pictures to promote you. I mean, that would be, for him or her, whoever it is, a win for them.
Yeah, I was at my tailor last week for my shirts in London last week, and I think my shirts, because they're stage shirts, they're not just they're going to cost like $500 to $1,000 for a shirt. But it's interesting, because when you have little conversations, there's quite a lot of musicians that go there. And we were having this conversation about Frank Sinatra. He used to buy his shirts from the same place, the same maker. And he said Frank always had a thing, which I can't remember the name. I think it's called a corn, which is a piece of material that goes from the back of the shirt round to the front of the shirt. And it was first designed for people that do horse riding in order to stop the shirt rising up. But because Frank always on stage always used his body, like, that was the thing. He wanted to keep a very thin shape, but he didn't want his shirt to rise up and you get that horrible thing where the shirt kind of goes with the belt and it doesn't look very nice. So it's interesting when you talk with tailors or you talk with any kind of stylists. I just learned so many different things about, I think, oh, that's interesting. I didn't think about that before. So it's a bit of an education for me.
So James, I'm just going to let you know something. This is so funny to hear you. So women have known about bodysuits forever.
See, we didn't know about this. What, guys, what happened? This is a thing.
We know this has been a thing forever. So you have the bodysuit and you put it in. It's like, you put it underneath so that it doesn't pull up out of you. And so it's just so funny because I love you all very much. You're like, he designed this. Hell no. He saw his wife put on, he saw his wife put it on and said, well, I should be doing that. And I'm really glad that you're saying this because I think one of the things that's important for people to know is where do you put your mic pack when you're speaking? Yeah. And you have to learn from superstars, right? Yeah. So I will, depending on the size of the stage, I might have a custom mic pack that matches the outfit put into the back of my shirt. Mm-hmm. I always wear a bodysuit under because I know put the pack on my bra strap is the best place for me ever. And I just tell the guys, because there's always guys putting the mic pack, I go take off my shirt, I pull it up, and they're like, you don't have to. I said, trust me on something. There has been a lot of people that have seen my boobs. You're not the first one. Get over it. It's perfect. And I'm beautiful. So and when you're doing that, can you also do a massage? So, I play with them on that so that they're comfortable, but I want it really sturdy.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that it's going up the back. So that's those are the kinds of things I did before. But here's two pieces before that are critically important. This is the most important thing that I think that a keynote speaker can do. You go to the practice, and what happens you're on the stage and they're asking you to do a sound check. And most people do a sound check like this. They go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, that means your voice is not modulated. And the AV team needs to know your modulation. So I have a song that I put it on. I go, okay, everybody, hip, hop, a hip it, hip, hip, hop it, don't stop, a rockin' to the bam, bam, boogie. Now up to the boogie of the rhythm of boogie to beat. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. Now I know my ABCs. Won't you sing along with me? So I do that so they can capture how my voice is going to go up and that they're hearing the sounds of the s words because they need to know how my spit is going out to modulate it. And too many people just go checking 1, 2, 3, check 1, 2, 3. And that's an AV guy, but I am command of my keynote. So I need to make sure that they get my piece.
So here's a technical question then on that, Pegine, when you're doing those AV checks, because something I learned from my wife is a jazz singer, is when she goes up on stage to do her AV check, she checks the monitors, the stage monitors, the audio monitors we have on stage to hear ourselves, so we're not destroy our voice. She gets them to sound check them first, and then she does front of house. But I speak to other speakers who they like to feel the out of house first, and then they will do any kind of stuff on stage. Do you have a preference in terms of how you do it?
I don't. I mean, one of the things is that I do trust. So when I'm talking to the AV people, it depends. First, let's just be clear. It depends what the investment is in AV people that the speeches are that you're going to. Mm-hmm. If they are pure speaking AV people, like they've never done music, they don't have any of that.
Yeah.
They have none of that. So if I go in prepared that they don't have that, that's, I could think like some rare places where maybe they've had musicians beforehand of me presenting. And so they have the added audio, the added piece. I still want to get one of those ear heads things.
They've got those bass bins. They've got those great bass bins when you have a proper music setup. So when you hit those lower register of your voice, it really pushes through. Because I find a lot of corporate stuff, it's just all very toppy, very tinny, and it loses some of the power.
I'm so glad that you said that. I'm so glad, because when you're doing the stage, the worst thing, one of the most irritating things for audience members is high-pitched voices. When you're doing stage work and you're doing your piece, I always tell people, especially women and men with high voices, to touch their larynx here and go so that they're speaking in this lower place, because the timbre of your lower voice will actually resonate. And I've done enough study about this, about two very significant things. For women that have lower voices get paid more money, have more male audiences, are more invited more often.
It's the Margaret Thatcher effect. She worked on dropping her voice.
Absolutely. You have to. And because here's the other thing. If you're doing this high, this cheerleader, one, is really bad on your voice. Two is the audience can't hear you. What they hear is you're screeching. You're yelling at me. When early on, my husband would be in the audience, and he had signs made, screech, screech. So he would hold it up like behind the audience, so that I would go, oh, because you get energetic, you want to screech. No, I got to bring it down. So that's what I do beforehand. Oh, important. This is just so important. I have to say this. When you're on at this AV, there are 3 important things you have to do. First off, you have to be able to, I walk the audience and I sit in the chairs. I sit in different spots, because I want to have the experience of what are they experiencing when they see me. So I'll sit at the mezzanines at the top, in the back row, in the front row. I'll sit on the front part. I'll sit in the back. I'll sit in the front, because a lot of times I want to know what those monitors look like. I want to have the experience that they have. So that's really important, number 1. Number 2 is I want to be on the stage and I want to declare, and I like to let the whole AV team know and the meeting planner know this. It is my ritual. I go, I am the commander of the ship. This is my house. This is my place. I protect my people. I am here to serve. I'm here to receive. I am here to give. This is my house. And I do this in the AV, and I stretch my arms out, and I am absolutely in that moment sending out energy to every single piece of that room, so that I create ownership of the room. It also makes all of the tech team really grateful that somebody is in command, right? So when I'm on stage on command, this is the other piece that I do, and I think it's critically important that everybody understands this. I learned this from Zig Ziglar. I had the chance to have a couple of conversations with him. Is when we're on stage, should something happen, we are the commander. In social media now, you have to know, stuff happens. We're not in in the world, people do terrible things. How are you going to protect your audience? So when I'm on stage, I'm always I become an airline hostess. I want to know where the exits are. I want to know where the exits are behind me. I want to know where the exits are at the top. And I will do the practice in my mind, which means, because I want to be able to be prepared. If there's something should happen and everybody has to evacuate immediately, they will want to take me off stage to protect me. But I'm the commander of the stage. So I have to be able to say, we're going to ask you to evacuate, back rows to the back place, the front 20, here's the poles. If you're before the poles, you go to the back entrance, use both aisles, move quickly, move quietly, help the elderly, pick them up. You are contained, you are protected, everything is going fine. You just go and do what you need to do. I will stay here until you are all safe and sound outside.
Pegine, I have a question for you related to that. I'm hoping that's never happened to you, but what's been the scariest moment you've ever had on stage?
So I've had two. Funny, they both happened with the military. So the first one was, oh my gosh, I was speaking to high command of the military army. We were in a hotel room. We had 100, it was 100 very, very, all generals, big generals, right, in the room. And it was a kind of a pitch fest about why I should be their keynote speaker at some of their big events. And in the middle of my program, a flock of birds hit the hotel generator and knocked out all the lights and all electricity.
What
Now,
are the
remember, I
odds?
talked about commanding. I mean, it went completely out. It went dark, and I said, remain seated. I'm continuing. And I continued. To this day, those people that were in the audience don't remember that the lights went out. They
Wow.
have no memory that the lights went out or that AV. They just knew what I was talking about. They remember it. That was really impactful. The second time was 3 or 4 years ago. I was speaking to 1,000 military officers, generals, and admirals, and a bunch of people. And I was so excited. I'm on this big stage. I have somebody on, and we're doing this process. And I was so into it that we were doing that kind of this walking thing. Out of sight and out of mind, I'll make sure you remember my sound. Off 1, 2, and they were doing this. What I didn't realize as I was doing this march, I was moving to the edge of the stage, and I fell. I completely fell into the pit on the stage. Everybody in the front row heard crack, crack, crack. And like they were all stopped, and nobody knows what to do. This is where command is so important. I went, it was with the military, so it was great. I went, you go get the medic. You call the hospital. The 3 of you get a chair, put 3 chairs on the stage right now. The 3 of you lift me up, put me on the stage. The show is going on. And I went on stage with sitting on the chair, and I just went, I know you're all worried about me. Can you all just go 1, 2, 3, ah. Ready to go, 1, 2, 3. And they all went, oh, I said, good, we're done. Let's move on. And we did. I had broken my foot in 26 places.
Wow. Wow.
The Dave Grohl Foo Fighters of the speaking industry. Pegine.
Oh my God. It took 2 years to rehab that. So then I was presenting in a wheelchair and a motorized scooter on keynote. Oh my gosh. I have stories about that, but that's for another day.
Tell me a little bit. Can you give us advice? People used to a small stage, suddenly they've got a big stage. What advice can you give with regards to sort of using the space? Do you just do what you did before and just stay still? I imagine you don't, right?
No. So I am trained in improvisational theater and children's theater. I've been in New York stages many years ago. I was a theater major, so I was used to some stages. And what I find is that people just don't understand how to use a stage. So I'm going to give you a couple of techniques that are really important for how you use the stage when you're speaking. So the stage is broken into, I'm going to go easy way. If I'm looking at you, so there's right stage, left stage. They actually look at it from the audience, but I'm talking to you because you're the keynote speaker, and I know I don't want to confuse you. So each part of the stage represents something, an emotion, a process, a thought. So if you are on right stage, so you move over to right stage, when you're at right stage, you're kind of giving a synopsis of what you're going. This is where you're the storyteller. If you ever took your kids to children's theater, if you knew something, this is the point where they're going, and then they went into the forest, and there she found blah, 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 blah. Let's learn more. So this is the part where you might be saying, today I'm going to be talking to you about purpose, passion, determination, and the skills that I have. And then you go to center stage. Center stage is when you're saying your truth, or you're teaching a concept, or you're doing a point, not a story, but a point. When you're on stage, you want to be in the center stage, so you have the center lights, and you plant your feet so that you are sharing your brilliance in that moment. When you go to the other side of the stage, which is my left, this is the time where you're going, the secret. This is where you're sharing your failures, or you're breaking the veil of the stage to have an intimate conversation. So James, you know, that time that we were both together and this happened to us. Well, I have to tell you, my head was bothering me big time. So notice my modulation changes. So you on a smaller stage, you know, literally, just so you know, this is my keynote stage when I'm talking virtually. Right? So this is my keynote stage because I need to remember where I'm at, right? So if I'm going over here, the audience begins to recognize when you're going to be telling truth or the point, when you're going to do a little bit of kind of background. What's the objective? Where are you going? You might be setting up a story. Then you're going to go tell your story. But then you're going to go over here and kind of do a little debrief. Let's have a conversation. Let's have a moment, you and I together. That's one thing that is very, very different. And because you have a big stage and you are not going to do this. Just saying, you are not going to do this.
The pacer.
The worst thing you could do is that. And when I see myself doing that, I cringe, right? It's say what you need to say and then move on. Say what you need to say and then move on. Say what you need to say, then mine. The other piece that you really have to do, and you do this during AV, is you could ask the tech people, for their tape, I ask for markings. I want to know where the lights are. So that's something you don't do on a smaller stage. So I have to know when the lights are the brightest on me. I also have to know when I'm in my dark space. So if I go into my dark space, you'll see, you know, shadows. I need to know on the stage, where's my box? That's why in TEDx, they put the round circle so that from an AV perspective, people stay on the round circle.
I saw a speaker the other day who's just coming new into speaking, and someone had said to him, "Listen, you're a bit of a pacer. You need to own, like, just even small stages, to own that part, to have that comfort." And they actually made him stand for the practice on a chair, so he couldn't pace, just to kind of get him comfortable in not pacing, and then start to then teach him like blocking and like understanding different as you were saying, like different parts of the stages and how you use them.
Yeah, it's really important. And it's important for you to understand where you are on the stage. Some of these stages are humongous. And you have to know why. And there's I don't think we have time, but
I know we don't, sadly.
There are 6 pieces of the stage that represent different emotions and different places, so that if I were in a big stage and really crafting something, I know how to go. But your lighting is critical, and they won't tell you. They expect you as a keynote speaker to know where hotspots are. So I will carry with me sometimes tape if they don't have it, just so that I have markings. I need to know where. The other thing on that stage, which you and I, James, were talking a little bit earlier, is where are the cameras? Because everything is going to be hybrid. Everything is hybrid, even if it looks like it's not, because on big stages, there might be 6 to 10 monitors, big monitors, so that you have thousands of people watching you. They're not watching you on stage. They're watching you on the monitor. So you really need to know to stop looking just at the front 10. You've got to stop looking. That the audience is more than that. So I was talking about other things that I do is I block out, I take the room and I make a quarter. If we have mezzanines up here, I do the mezzanine in half. I go around and walk around and I know that's one chair, that's chair. Here's one person I'm looking. This is another person. This is another person. This is another person. When you do quarters, the impression for the audience is when I'm looking at that one chair in that one quarter, that whole area believes I'm talking just to them.
The size of the stage, in the distance.
If I'm speaking over there and I look up there, I'm choosing one chair. And they do that. When I'm doing the AV, I ask which is the main AV camera that's going virtual. That's my other audience. So I don't look at the totality of, I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you further down here. I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you. And I'm talking to you. So that really I'm speaking to 7 people.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Pegine, there's so much more you can share. It's so clear. Your expertise is brilliant. We've run out of time, and I want to give James the opportunity to share all the excellent links that you've got for us, and sum up, if you wouldn't mind, James.
Yeah, so you've been sharing some wonderful gems with us today. You've kindly, we're going to have a link at the speakingbusiness.tv. We'll go there. I think we're going to show it just now as well. But one of the things that you have available is something called the 5 stages. In order to we've been talking about some of these about how to be a better presenter of your ideas, how to be a better speaker. Can you describe what the 5 stages are? And then we'll make sure we'll put a link to that as well. People can learn more.
Sure. So a lot of people don't realize there are 5 stages of speaking. As you move through the speaking business, you start from wanting to just speak. What do you need to do that? What do you need to be seen as a speaker? Then the second stage is, how are you starting to be seen as a professional? And I have very specific things. It's a checklist. It's an absolute checklist that you can use. And people use it for years and years and years to know where they are in their stage. And so the ultimate is the top, right? You've been $1 million speaker. You've been running big, you've seen all this. Well, what else does that mean? What is you looking for and having? So it's a checklist, so you know how to go through your speaking career. And it's a fabulous piece, if I do so say myself. And it's yours. Yeah, so just do that. That'd be great.
We're going to put a link to that. And you also have, we kind of didn't really get a chance to touch on it so much on this interview, but you work with a lot of women leaders, as I mentioned kind of earlier, though, and you have these kind of 2 groupings, something called Power Women Elite and Power Women Pro. Can you just share a little bit about that, and we'll make sure we link to those as well?
Sure. So Power Women Pro is for professional speakers, experts, and authorities who are paid to share their expertise. It's a free group where you're able to come in, and lots of people post questions and ideas and thoughts. It is not a, I wish I could be a speaker group. We actually don't let you in. You are in if you've been paid to be an expert, paid to be a speaker. It is. And so we get to talk about some of the nitty gritty details of being a woman professional speaker, from bras to hairs to negotiating, to money, to all of those things.
Which bureaus not to work with? Which are the ones that aren't paying on time? Some of those little things that we sometimes
all those little things
between
that
us
drive you crazy, right? And then Elite is one of my mastermind groups. Elite is for those individuals who are ready. You know, they've been running their business, but maybe they're not making the money. They're not. Maybe they haven't hit 6 figures, or maybe they want to go to the $250,000, and they need a champion to educate them. And I made this particular group specific because I was always searching for somebody to help me. I was wanted to I just wanted to be around people with someone that could share their wisdom, that could not rob my bank, and that could really make it valuable. So it's a low cost, but you have weekly meetings. And then I have a whole platform with lessons and teachings that I have about that. And every once in a while I have events. So that's Power Women Elite in the group. And for my men, I know you want to be with me. I want to be with you too. So just email me at pegine@pegine.com. My men, I do individual coaching for men, and I have special rates for you because I love you too. I do love you. Just can't be in those groups. So I'm happy. Most of my individual coaching happens to be guys who have watched what I've done from social media, from speaking, and they just want that help and support. So that's what I do.
We'll put all those links there. People go to speakingbusiness.tv. You can also find these links there as well. Pegine, a pleasure. As always learn lots having a conversation with you. Thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Don't go, because there's one last tip that they must know.
Okay.
When it is time and you are finished, don't run off the stage.
Oh, yes.
Can bow. And here's what's pretty important. You put your arms out and you count 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, because it takes 3 seconds for the audience to feel you. And it takes 3 people to stand up to give you a standing ovation.
Fantastic. Let's do that now. Thank you. Thank you.
1 Birmingham, 2 Birmingham, 3 Birmingham.
Bye-bye.
Take care, everyone. See you later.